So let's take a look at these Steam reviews. So here's the thing. Overall, like you can see up here, out of the total reviews, yeah. So out of the 800,000, there's 624,000 positive reviews, right? And then you can see the bulk of the negative reviews have really been within the past, basically, couple of weeks here, right? Which is when I don't approve of a review bombing as a way to try to get like a game company to like do something. I don't think that's the right course of action, But yeah, overall they've been kind of mixed recently. It looks like let's go here. So this is when they had the most negative reviews, right? I think that's around the time people were saying, "Let's review bomb AH." The constant curse monkey paw note patches has made this game a frustrating mess. They skipped over making a game for everybody. It's just a game for nobody. What does that even mean? Is this review helpful? Not really. If I'm being honest, like it doesn't tell you anything about the actual game. I think this is just somebody hopping on the brigade, Must say, is this review helpful? No. This is the shit that gets me though. So like people have this negative review, right? 26 hours in the last 2 weeks. Like they've played the game consistently the last 2 weeks despite doing this negative review. Like that's almost how you know it's almost just like the game's not that bad. Like they're just jumping on the bandwagon of leaving a negative review because they think that that's going to do something, which is why people on Reddit have been equating it to like spoiled entitled children. So you think like review bombing something's going to like make things magically happen? Like let's grow up a little. This guy's played 323 hours. Blah blah blah. Yeah, your first Steam review. Constant cycle of we're so back and we're so over. It feels like maybe for the vocal minority, but like on average, the game's still averaging like I feel like 40k players a day, which isn't too bad. Yeah, it's gone down a little bit, but it's a 2-year-old game at this point, Escalation Field was perfect. It was a particularly notorious patch. Yeah, wasn't there a lot of like bugs and shit that they did fix? Fast forward to Into the Unjust, blah blah blah. Machinery of Oppression. I don't remember Into the Unjust. Was that when we were going into the Hive worlds? I do remember there were some issues. My game didn't really. I didn't have too many problems myself. Like, yeah, there was definitely crashes and stuff that happened fairly consistently, though. But content patch side, everybody should release, especially unless it's been exercised and ball bouncing. Let's buff this one thing, heavily nerf this other thing to directly counter buff. Great idea, right? Apparently, that is a common design philosophy in like Sweden or something for game developers. At least that's what I've heard. That's common game philosophy. Is like you buff one thing, or like to make buffs but nerf other things, or like you buff one thing and then buff another thing so that the buffs more or less it's not like a huge actual buff. I don't know. It's a weird game philosophy or game design philosophy in my mind. If that's what Arrowhead's doing, is like, oh yeah. We have the false feeling, you buff this thing on the player side and you buff the enemies on this side. Like, it makes sense, like, oh yeah, we need to balance things, but... So, okay, I think that's what he's trying to say. So, let's take that Coyote, for example, right? So the Coyote... We all know fire damage has always been pretty damn good, right? So, they released the Coyote, it was the new hot thing, everybody was using it. They didn't nerf the Coyote directly, though. Like, instead of actually nerfing the gun or nerfing the fire damage that did, they, I believe, increased the flame resistance of enemies. Like, enemies that had higher HP bars or higher durability wouldn't be caught on fire as easily, right? And I think that's kind of the game philosophy that the game design philosophy that Arrowhead takes. It's like, oh yeah, we got this thing that's overperforming, so let's buff the enemies in response to that, basically. Which really wasn't a huge noticeable difference. Like, you could still shoot most chafe enemies a couple times, light them on fire, and they'll still die from the fire. If you leave them alone, It really only affected the bigger enemies, like the mid-size to, the big boys. Arrowhead does do that, like with the Hive Guard thing. Like, oh yeah, let's make the Hive Guards AP4. That didn't even really change anything, in my opinion. Like, sure, it made it so you can't just throw a turret at them and it'll just kill everything, because it'll focus on the guard. But isn't that kind of the Hive Guard's point? But we got a ton of buffs. The mechs are actually better than they were before the patch, because the mechs used to have a bleed out pool. which they more or less fully removed. They increased, or sorry, they decreased the HP pool of the parts on the mech itself, but they also made it so the mech doesn't bleed out anymore, and it has higher durability on, like, the arms and stuff has a higher HP pool. Although I think the cockpit has less of an HP pool on the front and the back or something. Like 100 less or whatever, but that's just because they removed the bleed out effect. So, like before, like if they made you, like, say they like smacked, say like the bugs or whatever, smacked one of your legs off or an arm off, then you would start bleeding out over time and eventually you just explode. That doesn't happen anymore. And that was a great change. Like, if anything, the mechs are actually better now than they were before the patch. But this guy actually did, like, a detailed review, right? Now, do I agree with him? Not necessarily, you know? I have highly recommend this game if you love grinding for hours to unlock content you paid for. So, the only content you paid for was the beginning war bond, basically. Everything else, you have to either grind up the super credits for. This review is fucking useless, though. I'm just gonna downvote that thing. Like, if you love grinding for hours, yeah, the game's been out for 2 years. Now, that I will say, though, that it would be nice if they had some kind of war bond sale every once in a while now, since the game's been out for so long. That way, newer players have an easier way to get some of the other war bonds. Like, they don't have to do it for every single war bond, so maybe, like, the oldest ones, they could put them on the discount for a while, or they could use, like, a rotating discount on war bonds. At least on the oldest ones, like, maybe ones that were from, like, the first year or whatever. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, again, like, these reviews are just pointless. Like, this game is going down a terrible, horrible path of monetizing gameplay features that shouldn't even be monetized. You have 2 base mechs by default, and the new mechs are not, like, must-have game-breaking. Like, they're good at what they do, but they're not, like, a pure upgrade to the base mechs. Like, the Emancipator is still the best mech, in my opinion. Like, the new mechs are good, though. Don't get me wrong, but the Emancipator is still hands down the best mech. And you get that one for free still. I will say, though, like, it would be nice to get, like, a new stratagem or something, or through a major order again, like we did in the first, like, year and a half or whatever. That's something that they could work on. Very antagonistic devs, feels malicious, blah blah blah. I have no clue where this is coming from. Feels malicious. Like, antagonistic for what? What are you talking about? Like, Jesus H. Christ. I am very confused by some of these reviews. Let's go to more recent, though. How is that even... That's space racism. That's... What the hell is that? I like how they left it as a positive review. It's kind of funny, but... So on this day, they were mostly negative, right? Another wave of corporate PR and control is happening. Yeah, it does kind of feel like there's a bit of response to the community lashback. But... There's almost no game potential between level 30 to 150. I mean, yeah, once you max out your ship upgrades, there's not really anything else to, like, upgrade. Other than, like, leveling up guns, and even then, like, once you finish maxing out the guns, what's there to do after that for endgame? I've seen this pattern countless enough times now. 821 hours. This is the kind of person I want to see more of. Countless users have made untouched for ages. I mean, they did fix flesh mob clipping recently. The one thing I do want them to revert or fix would be the wall climbing thing, because that can be a little bit annoying. I can work around it because I'm used to having to work around it again, but sometimes you're just like, let me just climb over like we used to. We got changes no one asked for, blah blah blah. Say bouncing is disconnected makes me wonder if they even playtest their own game. Like, the only really change I remember was the Hive Guard thing, and then, like, the mechs changes, but the mech changes make sense when you actually look at what they did with the mechs, and they actually made it better. I'm not gonna go and just, like, start downvoting. Hey, so here's somebody that's just doing it just for the sake of doing a negative review. Is this bullcrap right here? This is absolutely meaningless. These kind of reviews should be deleted. Like, reviews where they just say nothing like that should be deleted. Oh, this guy's got 1,000 reviews on record. So he's closer to where I am, right? I'm 1,400. I haven't left a review at all, by the way. Still's played 70 hours in the last 2 fucking weeks. Like, how is it these people have this many hours and they played this many hours in the last couple weeks, but they still leave a negative review? Like, review bombing doesn't work, my dudes. It doesn't work like that. I get it, though. Some people are just burnt out. Go play another game. Go touch some grass. This will probably be the last. Actually, I want to see, like, a positive reviews as well, so I might check some of those out real quick just to see what the other side's saying. I guess now's the time. I spent a lot of time in the game and played pretty much every up and down the studio's gone through. Okay, it can be fun with friends. There's a ton of content to explore. Here's why I wouldn't. Here's why I wouldn't ever recommend it. Okay, let's just see what he says before I say anything. Once you get to the point where you preach don't ever die to enemies actually being difficult, you'll still die when things get difficult. Though, like I think this is a hot take. Like are you God? Are you God of Helldivers? Like getting stuck. This does happen sometimes when you get like when you get like ragdolled into a body. That's about the only time that happens. Or when a body, like you get too close to the body, you get stuck on there. But and these are just the main ones. Too easily, blah 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 blah. The others of developers to make the player. The others of the actual developers to make the player feel like a loser because nothing is more freaking better than trailed by a random seed, and the last consequence of the developers changing code they don't understand. Okay, that part's actually funny. I don't think the developers are actually being malicious, though, my dude. Developers are main reason you should pass in this game. I'm a game developer myself. What do you mean the lies? The mechs can't be possibly customizable, nor can you have more than one because it will implode the game. I think they said that a long time ago. Like, that was a long time ago. But they said too many objects on the map could cause crashes. I don't think they said it would make the game implode, necessarily. It's more of a game engine. It's more of a balancing issue, really. Like, do you want somebody to be able to call down a mech? You know, use it up, call down another mech straight away, and just keep calling down mechs. Like, I think at this point it's more of a balancing choice to only allow us to have one mech call down, or one mech stratagem we can take. But I know in the past they said part of the reason was because, like, too many objects in a game can cause issues. Which, you know, we've seen that happen before with too many stratagems going off at the same time. But, you know, whatever. The whole idea about Cody and the fire damage change, that wasn't even that... Like, I didn't even fucking notice hardly a difference. Like, you guys are babies. If you think, like, the whole fire damage thing is that significant of a change that, oh no, the game's unplayable. Fire damage worthless. That's not what he's saying, though. He's just saying the whole ordeal about the Coyote and how fire damage got changed. Let's talk about the atrocious balancing and blah 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 blah. New weapons and damage dice seem to get changed across the board at seeming random times. I mean, they haven't really done any crazy like damage or balance changes to the weapons. If anything, they've buffed like I think they buffed sidearms recently. A lot of sidearms recently, like a little bit in the damage department and the I think reducing like the sway and stuff so that they're a little easier to use. How fast they can make change to these values? I mean, the Warbond's probably been in development for a while now, you know. They're just injectures or floats, and literally as easy as hitting backspace and typing a new number. It's like true, but I don't know how they make balance changes like that. Like you have to make the change and then test it in the engine or whatever. I don't know. I understand like integers, but they don't. There have been new weapons to release a primary pool of the exact same stats as other weapons. Half the weapons aren't even viable. Half is. This is blatantly false. Half the weapons aren't even viable. My ass. Like, I have used basically every weapon in the game until level 20 at this point, and they're all pretty viable. Like, there are definitely situations where they aren't as viable, where you probably wouldn't want to take a shotgun to the bot front, for example. Unless it's, like, the double freedom, and you know, like to warp pack behind hulks and blow their backs off, but, like, half the weapons not being viable is really a hot take. Like, I feel like that's just... Like, dudes just try to make it overly negative, I guess. This is about the stupidest thing. Let's see. The CEO talks about weapons being base on purpose. Base balance. I don't know what he's trying to say there. This is the stupidest thing I've heard from both player perspective and a developer. Are you a developer, dude? Or are you just trying to say you're a developer to get internet points? It's like there's no QA studio at all. They've said they don't have like a balancing team or anything before. You know, like it's changed things. They do probably minimal testing before they push it out to live servers. Not a single warbond that you have to pay for, by the way, has released without half the game breaking. The last that has not been the case recently, my dude. Like I can't think of a warbond that's just broken the game since like either the Hive Worlds or Superf was the last time we had a warbond where like the game crashes just got really bad. I didn't really notice it when Cyberstan came out, though some people apparently had issues with Cyberstan. I have friends currently getting struggle killed because all the overpowered weapons are locked behind a paywall. You don't need... none of the weapons are super overpowered, though. There are definitely really good weapons behind some of the war bonds, but nothing is overpowered to the point that you need to have it to play the game. You can 100% play of just the base weaponry and get by just fine. At $40 to play games, $30 they just have the tools to play it. Yeah, that's just patently false. Like, brother, do you have a skill issue? Like, honestly, is this a skill issue? Like, there are definitely some weapons and stuff that are maybe better than others, but like, there's nothing that's like a universal win button, you know? There's not like a crazy like meta. Like, everything's pretty well balanced, in my opinion. Don't even start if the whole super credits are free to grind. You're bitching about super credits being free to grind. This part was funny. I don't think it's helpful. Let's end on some positive notes here. I want to see if anybody's left a good positive review. I've considered it, I just don't have... Like, I'd have to sit down and think about it. And I didn't want to do that this last week, because like, oh, I have to go to work, and I want to do other things first, but... really fun co-op game. 3 different factions to fight, variety and playstyle. It's always going to be better with friends, but surprisingly fun even... Yeah, there are some fun shenanigans you can get up to randoms. Or get up to with randoms. Weapons are unbalanced, and all the ones are just perfect ones. I think that's not true. Because, like, what? I've been using the Halt. That's an Orbital Warbond weapon. It's not like the most busted shotgun on the face of the earth, but it still gets the job done. Game release, I considered pre-insurgency was done fine. You obtain it in-game without spending money. Yeah, for newer players, that it is a bit of a wall. I definitely agree with that. Yeah, game's not as buggy as it used to be, though. Like, it's definitely in a way better state. Like, the game state is pretty solid right now. I think this was a pretty good review. Honestly, I'm making a ton of this review now because a ton of people are making negative reviews and crying for no reason. Helldivers 2 is generally an amazing game that developed amazingly over the past 2+ years. Helldivers 2, it did get really bad at one point, though. Like, let's not forget that. Like, it's definitely had its up and downs, but there was definitely a point where the game was just, like, balance, gun balance, or enemy balance was game state was pretty bad at one point. Because, like, I think Pilestat said before, they have a lot of tech debt, basically, where, like, you got these bugs that need to be fixed, but it takes time to squash these bugs, and, you know, squashing one bug could create another problem. So, like, yeah, they could, like, if they sat there and just tried to fix bugs, they'd be at it for a while, by the sounds of things. You know, like, I don't know exactly all the nature of, like, how, like, how fixing the bugs goes, but, yeah. I've unlocked at least the last 13 war bonds for free by grinding super credits out for free in-game. My points are just during missions. Yeah, same here. Consistency is one of the few games I had fun with and comfortable to come back and relax to or grind out and spend some time in, although Helldivers has had fair share of bugs, and it's because of its giant demand due to its player base. The drama part makes me a bit sad, as Helldivers 1 veteran from PlayStation, with many hours into Helldivers 2 is 700 hours almost, which is impressive. Even made new friends, blah blah blah. It makes me extremely sad seeing people constantly complaining about this game now. The community has pushed an expectation of content in the scale of a AAA game by Blizzard Entertainment by fixing bugs immediately when they get discovered, and to constantly bring 100% satisfying content every damn week. It does feel like that, because like, remember when we had the 60-day patch and people were like, when Warbond, you know? Like, it's like the vocal minority aren't satisfied either way. Like, oh, you're not fixing the bugs, you're bad. Oh, you're not giving us new Warbond, you're bad. You know, like, they're just not satisfied either way. The only and biggest problem in this game right now is the sour part of the community that wants baby treatment and not to give critical feedback in a proper manner. That's more or less what I'm noticing. Like, the one dude that was the dude before this, like, he actually gave, like, a detailed, in-depth review, right? I won't say it was good feedback, though. Like, he or she or whatever definitely had some hot takes. You know, it wasn't like the best review, but it was at least detailed, whereas some of the negative reviews I saw were just no details hardly, you know, just all this game the glitchy, unplayable mess or whatever, you know. This game is by no means perfect, but it's not as bad as the mass. It's the vocal minority, really, the vocal toxic parts of it say it is. All weapons are not useless. You just have to know how to use them. All stratagems are not useless. Every piece of this game has a use case, and it's up to you as a player to adapt. Exactly. And what your loadout is, you know, like, you adapt your loadout to complement it. Game's not perfect, yes, but there are bugs. But the biggest issue this game has is its community. That's the thing with games when they get popular, is you're always going to have that toxic part of the community that pops up. I think that's a good, solid review. But this just goes to show, like, okay, so this is a pretty new player, right? 20 hours into it, and so far their overall impression is positive, right? Like that right there should tell you like what the majority of people that play the game probably actually feel like. Like some people I think are just focusing entirely too much on the whole mechs thing, with the two new mechs being behind war bonds, but like they've put new stratagems behind war bonds before. You know, new weapons are always behind like war bonds. So but mechs break the bank, you know, like they've had new turret stratagems behind war bonds, you know, like grenades. Like basically everything in the game has been behind a warbone at some point. But you know, the mechs apparently is too much. You know, and this is back when the AMA. I think really it's just the backlash response to the way the AMA went down, and then that I can understand. But this, there's not a lot of like actual constructive. Yeah, people are you're just parroting. You're just rephrasing. Everybody's just re-saying this monkey's paw bullshit, right? Like all they're doing is parroting words that other people have said. It seems like. Like, is there an actual... Hang on. You're wrong about that. I can tell you that right now. Weapons are not swinging from great to unusable with every balance update. But yeah, this whole monkey's paw thing, like, you see people saying monkey's paw or whatever, like, you're just parroting that from Reddit or wherever the hell else people are using monkey's paw. At some point, you commit to the game or you don't. Right now, it feels like you don't. It feels like you're trying to push the game in a direction no one asked for, while constantly undermining what actually makes sense in the first place. So you're not... The problem I have, okay, so maybe this isn't a great view because like you're not pointing at anything specific, like about what your actual issue is here. Like this is all like meaningless fluff so far. Like okay, what about the balance? You know, what is it? What about the game direction going? Are you like we need more specifics? You know, like you have a problem with something with the game, but I don't know what the exact problem is. Because you aren't being specific enough. No, I've been playing since the first Helldivers. That game was stable, focusing on exactly what it wanted to be. This one feels like it's constantly fighting itself. I don't really agree with that either. Like, yeah, there was a really bad issues with like bugs and game crashes, you know, that they did fix, and the game's been pretty good ever since. There haven't been any major game picking issues. Fix your game, Arrowhead. Was this review helpful? No. And you go from fun niche game to clarity, something bigger but worse in all ways that matters. I mean, Helldivers 2 is inherently just a different type of game than Helldivers 1. Let's make that clear. Like, Helldivers 1 was a top-down shooter, basically. Horde shooter. This is still a horde shooter, but it's a first-person or third-person horde shooter. Yeah, I'm still not sure what they're trying to be specific about. So this review could have been good, but they kind of lost me in the middle here. This I don't agree with. Like, but I can understand what you're complaining about here. Like, that's being specific. The live war. Okay, so obviously people don't like the reinforcement budget thing, but it makes sense, you know, because we have the exact like. So let's go back to when we were being invaded by the Illuminates, right? And we had the whole reinforcement bar for the Illuminates. People seem to like that, right? Like, oh, we're depleting their forces, right? But when the tables are turned and it's us with the reinforcements being depleted, apparently people don't like that. I didn't have a problem with it personally. I can understand why, you know, as a player, it doesn't feel great to see the reinforcements dwindling, but like, those are the consequences of war, you know? But I guess they don't like that because, like, oh, we can't just win Cyberstat. No, we have to, you know, actually worry about reinforcements, which unfortunately, lots of people were futzing around dying on other planets. But the majority of people were dying on Cyberstan because they just didn't know what the hell they were doing. Like, even in my gameplay recording of Cyberstan, I'll say that people were just dying left and right because they weren't bringing the right armor to actually mitigate the new Vox engines were the main issue, right? Well, and the cyborgs. But like, I saw people running around in light armor, for God's sake. You know, that's a personal choice. Like, you run around in light armor, you're gonna die a lot. Like, I know there was one guy that probably... I've had people that died, like, you know, 10 plus times in a single match. They just keep dying and dying and dying. You know, and I get dying a lot, but like, that part of the reinforcements dwindling as quickly as they did was just purely a skill issue from some of the player base, right? And I had matches where I died a ton of times too. Like, it happens. But I didn't mind the reinforcement thing. We just failed as a community to coordinate. Which is something else that I think Arrowhead should try to address is having some in-game way to coordinate a little better on the planets themselves when they have the major cities unlocked. Because on Cyberstan, people were going to different like factory cities, right? They were attacking different factory cities. Like there'd be a blob on one side, but you'd still have people on some of the other cities for some reason, literally not contributing because there's not enough people there to contribute. Yeah, I think the whole Cybersens thing with the reinforcements is really just a player base issue, or just Arrowhead underestimating how quickly people were going to burn through our reinforcements. You know? It feels like that you're trying to push the game in the direction no one asked for. So what's the direction that you're thinking that they're trying to push the game towards? Because you don't clarify that at all. There has to be at least one good review, one good negative review in here. Okay, so this guy's actually a bit more specific. So let's just start from the top here. So he's been playing the game, obviously for a long time, 1,200 hours. He's played almost as many hours as I have, right? I like how this is your one review, though. Like, of all the games to leave a review on, you've probably played tons of other games too, like, but you decided to leave a review on Helldivers too, probably because of the community backlash. I've invested a lot of my personal time outside of the game to understand the complex mechanics to overall. The game's not that complex that you need to invest time outside of the game. It really isn't. But the community is so overwhelming, polarized, and borderline toxic that's truly difficult to have fun in the game like it wants to. Okay, so he's also kind of. So the negative review is not just for Helldivers, but also about the toxic part of the community. Yeah, larger historically neutral opinions. Yeah. I'd say I'm kind of the same way, where I've been more neutral. I could decreasingly accept or be happy with Arrowhead's game and balancing decisions. Okay, let's continue. Arrowhead has largely had poor communication with the community, which that's definitely kind of true. It shows more for each patch having a history of either blatantly lying to the community or hiding changes, implemented patches that are later data mined and without fail always anger the community. So that's one thing, is they definitely need to, like, somebody needs to actually compile a list of all the changes when they push out a patch. Because there are definitely some things that just kind of slip through. Whether that's intentional or not, I have no clue. But I don't think that they're, like, blatantly lying about anything, you know? Here we go. Blatant monetization of the new player strengthening content. While not inherently bad for games, detract from the original community aspects Sims, and he's talking about the mechs specifically, I'm sure. Unlock new stratagems or cast aside potentially trying in favor of saving children, which ultimately blah blah blah. That one was just because of the funny meme that we did with the whole the children yearn for the mines, so we kept saving the children. But yeah, if he's talking specifically about the mech thing, I disagree. Everything else, every other gun type and stratagem type and grenade type or whatever, every other part of the Helldivers kit has been in a warbond at some point to be either, you know, mechs is not the thing that should break the camel's back here. Because we got 2 mechs for fucking free. That worked perfectly well. The new mechs aren't even busted, but, you know, I get what you're saying. I still don't see where the lies are. Like, maybe you're saying, like, oh yeah, there's patches where there's somebody data mines some changes that weren't listed in the patches, which is whatever. This patch is overwhelmingly full of buffs for the enemies, so that's not true. Varying from those that merely weaken the player's armored options, mechs, the tank destroyer, fast recon vehicle, and importantly turrets as well. Turrets didn't get nerfed though. Am I tripping? They didn't get buffed, but they didn't get nerfed. And the mech changes was actually a net buff for mechs. Because mechs don't bleed out anymore. The hell is tank destroyer? Is he talking about the tank itself specifically? It does feel like it dies a little too quickly still. Plus that, fundamentally all you have to deal with certain enemies like the hive guards and tanks. Oh, he's talking about the automaton tanks. You really don't have to engage with them any differently. They're exactly the same as they were before. I think they increased the armor or plating on the vents or something. Was that what it was? I think that's what it was. But you still kill them the same way. Like, you can still kill them the exact same way as you could before. Requiring loadout changes and provides adapt overcome. Obviously, you were never in the military. I mean, I wasn't either, but some people just keep bashing. Anyway, yeah, it's like taking a rock to dig a hole in the wall, or, you know, taking some kind of drill and drilling into the wall. You know, like, you gotta adapt your loadout to your opponent. instead of just beating your head on the wall with the same loadout again and again. I feel like some people just like, oh, I want to use only this thing. Like they just get too locked in. I only want to use this thing and only this thing, and if I have to change it, I'm gonna cry because change is too hard. That's not what he's saying though. On this paper, this patch is an overall net negative for players, which is that I wholeheartedly disagree with that. Kind of, I think there's some misinformation in here, like saying that it's full of buffs for enemies and weakens players' armored options. Okay, but player weapons are still just as effective, right? Yeah, like this is somebody that's played for a good long time, and they're probably just tired of some of the Arrowhead's decisions, which I can understand that. So, I would say this is the most constructive review I've seen so far. I'll say it's helpful only because it's actually the most constructive review, negative review that I've seen here, right? And that being said, overall, the overall reviews on this game are still overwhelmingly positive, right? And that's because the majority of the reviews came from when the game first came out. Most people are not going to go back in and change their reviews from way back then. Like half the people that played back when the game first came out, the first like year or whatever, probably don't even play the game anymore. And I always say like, yeah, I can understand some of the how do you phrase it, some of the negativity, but like if you can't leave a give constructive feedback, you're not helping anything, you know? Like that doesn't help Arrowheads like know what they need to change if you can't be constructive and like actually give, you know, concise, detailed reason about why you don't like something or why you feel these changes are bad or whatever, you know? Like give some actual give some actual details, you know? Like that's what half of these reviews are lacking is just detail. Like they aren't specific enough about what their issues are. Anyway, that's gonna have to do it for now, so hope y'all enjoyed, and I will see you all on the next one. Have a good day. Bye-bye.